I will be talking in English, as the text is in English. So I have the pleasure to introduce you to energy efficiency of ships, maybe in the core of this conference. And this is a list of contents of my presentation. In the first part, I will be outlining the development of international regulations in this field, something that is very important because some of these regulations are still under development and under implementation. And in the second part, I will briefly report about a research project funded by the European Commission, Project Shocker, that is dealing with international regulations and related scientific research, and that I have the pleasure to coordinate at the National Technical University of Athens. So this is a roadmap of developments of international regulations. As you know, in 1997, the Kyoto Protocol regarding some control of pollution of the environment was signed. And then IMO, the International Maritime Organization, had the task to introduce measures in the maritime field and restrict toxic gas emissions by ships. For about 10 years, nothing happened, except for some studies and that were of global nature, proving actually that the impact of maritime operations on the environment with respect to toxic gas emissions was very small. Actually, it is around 3% of all other pollutants, 3%. Despite that, the maritime community came under pressure, and after December 2007, we had some of the post-Kyoto activities coming then in May 2008 in the formulation of the first ideas how to introduce the control of toxic gas emissions in the maritime field through so-called market-based measures that were not clearly defined. But a few years later, in July 2011, we had a decision regarding the introduction of EEDI, the Energy Efficiency Design Index, that is mandatory nowadays for all new buildings after January 1st, 2013, and the Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan that is also effective both for new buildings and existing ships, controlling the operation of the ship in terms of efficiency. At present, these EEDI regulations are moving from so-called phase 0 to phase 1, that I will explain briefly later. And we are discussing at the moment technical guidelines regarding the so-called minimum powering requirement that takes care of the safety of the ship and has also several negative effects that are disputed by the maritime industry. So the question is, because the discussions at IMO are still heated and they do not come to a conclusion, whether all this breaks down or we continue. I think the prediction at the moment is more optimistic, but we need to see. I will explain you the basic concept of the EEDI, the Energy Efficiency Design Index, that is based on the concept how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in shipping. And this is done by reducing the CO2 emissions. The CO2 emissions are directly related to some activity of shipping or the transport work of shipping times the efficiency of this activity. So this is then expressed in terms of activity by dead weight of the ship or the payload times the speed of the ship, whereas the efficiency is here related to fuel consumption and directly then to CO2 emissions per unit transported cargo, then given by gram CO2 emissions per ton mile of the ship. The question how to reduce now the CO2 emissions is going into two options. Namely, at first, may reduce activity or the transport work, but this is not a viable solution if you don't like to affect the world economy, unless you decide also to have a reduction of the world economy. Slow steaming is a solution for individuals, but not as a global solution, because if the transport work is not achieved by one ship, you have to build two ships, maybe for the same transport work. And this could be more polluting. The option 2, improving the efficiency, is a viable one, and we need here to see technical measures. That means improve ship design, improve the engine design. That means reduce fuel consumption and emissions per ton mile by design measures. This includes hull optimization, reduction of resistance in calm buoyant waves, the enhancement of propulsive efficiency, introduction of maybe of new type of propulsive tools, improve energy technology, engine technology, and so on. This is a task followed up by designers and shipyards. On the other side, we may use operational measures. That means operate the ship efficiently at sea and reduce fuel consumption and emissions per ton mile by operational measures. This can be weather routing, can be trip optimization, and other measures that the operators have to take care of. Now, the question is whether this was a good concept to address the emissions of shipping. And if you look at that at the very beginning, I think some strategic decisions at the relevant bodies of the maritime community were not properly taken. Here we come to reduce eventually CO2 emissions by reducing fuel saving. And fuel saving actually is a prime objective of ship design and operation. So to regulate that, to say reduce fuel efficiency, worries every ship owner, maybe the Navy nowadays also. It is important to reduce fuel consumption, but for a ship owner, the reduction of fuel consumption is of prime interest. So why to regulate? And if you regulate wrongly, I will show you that maybe some of these guidelines are wrongly placed, then you come to some disaster in terms of the freedom that the designer has to develop a good ship. The EEI, as it is formulated, this is some definition is shown here. Is just the ratio between the engine power times the specific fuel oil consumption times some carbon factor that is related to the fuel that is used, and divided by the transport work, that is here capacity in terms of deadweight times speed. And as you can see here, if you reduce speed, maybe you have some increased EEI, but of course speed goes with engine power with speed to the cube. That means eventually a higher speed will have higher EEI. The energy efficiency operational index is something like EEI, but now here we count the actual fuel consumption and then relate to the actual sail distance. This is what we can control as operator, and we can control it over one voyage or even over a year to see whether the ship is properly operated, efficiently operated. And this is part of the ship energy efficiency management plan that may be also part of the safety management plan of an operator, and needs now to be to exist also for all ships, independent whether they are new or existing. The reduction measures that I briefly explained at the beginning, and they are here also outlined, as you can see, is for these big one measures that are on the left side, are which are mandatory for new ships. This leads to the first generation regulatory package that has been already discussed at IMO. The second generation regulatory package includes here even market-based measures, METS, market emissions trading system. That means you have also the chance, this is discussed, if your ship is more polluting than indicated in the rules, maybe to buy some shares from the emissions market, and instead of fulfilling the criteria that are set up by regulation. In any case, on the right side, what we have there is still flowing, it is still not fixed, it's being discussed, and the same we have here on the left side, the EEI, that is related to the design of the ship, and you can see here ships that are more efficient with low EEI, and ships that are less efficient with high EEI. On the other side, the EEOI, that is the Energy Efficiency Operating Index, is fluctuating. And why? Because if you have bad weather, you have some increased powering for keeping a certain speed. Or maybe if you are in a partly loaded condition, you don't have that capacity as it is in the EEI. Again, the EEI is going up. So this is something fluctuating, and this needs to be, as I said, followed up by the operator and relevant systems that are assisting here in terms of decision making regarding the operation of the ship. Here's a typical energy efficiency operating index over a year for a certain ship, and you can see the up and downs and take measures, try to explain why I had a very high EDI at a certain period, try to explain that and take measures to improve it as operator. Here I come to the EEI regulations as they stand today. You see here on the vertical is the EEI in terms of grams CO2 per ton mile, and on the horizontal we have the deadweight of the ship, and some basic relationship is that this EEI is going down the larger the ship is. This is an effect of the economy of scale. We know that larger ships are, in general, also more efficient. That means also the requirements that are set up there, the reference line, needs to go down. On the other side, you see here by colors the phase-in procedures to relevant regulations, because if your ship is a new build ship, you need, with the powering and your EEI, to be below the reference lines as indicated there. So the phase 0, 2013-14, it started in January 1st, 2013, is the red line. Now we are already in the yellow line, 10% less than the original one. And in 5 years from now, then we go to phase 3 and so on. I have to tell you that already now, some designers and ships have problems with the second phase. And this has brought in some very fierce opposition by some ship owners who have ordered ships, and maybe in China, and they can see that they have problems fulfilling the various stages of compliance. So one question is whether the originally set reference lines was correct or not. And I go briefly into this, saying again that the discussions about these reference lines are practically lasting until today. So the reference lines are ship type dependent and size dependent, and they reflect the average EEI of similar existing ships. Also, what is discussed are the so-called reduction factors. That means the stringency of phasing procedures. So how quickly we go, 10% in 5 years, or 5%, and why in 2015 we should be 30% down. Setting up the reference lines by some regression of data of existing ships, one should consider the period of time of the century, that is what ships to take into account. All ships of the last 10 years or last 5 years. Are these ships typical to the ships that will be built from now on? Then the accuracy of the collected data, that is also very important. We have very strong indications that those who set up the lines, they process data that are not correct. And then the treatment of outliers. Outliers, statistical outliers always exist. The question is whether You delete some outliers or you take them into account and then distort the sample. So here I have some statistics for tankers. You see this EEI line. The original one is some old line that was developed is this one. This is a reference line, the blue one, that is based on statistics of ships built between January 2004 and December 2007. But what we can see here is something that is strange. Starting with the red line and then green and so on. You see that the older ships, for example, January 92 to June 96, the red line is lower than the blue line. What means that over the years the ship became less efficient. So you need to explain that, why this happened. And this is here for container ships. I took another type of ship, showing again these statistics. Of course, there is a dependence of the size, and larger ships always have a lower EEI, but we see that more recent ships have a higher EEI value. What means that if you make a rule out of a sample that goes back 10 years, then you may have reference lines that are too low for what is built today. And this is what, at the moment, also what IMO did. The data that IMO used the last 10 years, they do not take into account latest regulations. Some new regulations came in the last years, like NOx Tier 3 provisions, ballast water treatment, some enhanced rules for the structure, the CSR rules. All these have a negative impact on EEI. Overall, it may be so that if you look at all type of ships, that it is a balanced approach, but it is problematic for bulk carriers and tankers. If you look at the submissions of the Greek delegation to IMO regarding bulk carriers and tankers, then you see that they are strongly opposing these reference lines, and it appears that it is a complicated conflict of opposing interests at IMO. I like here to say that I have here the major players of IMO described in my way. There are traditional shipbuilders, countries with traditional shipbuilding like Japan, maybe Korea is half in, and new shipbuilders like China that have conflicting interests in that respect because the technology is not the same. Pricing is also different. Then the ship owners have other interests here. The market changes, fuel prices changing, they go up and down. Slow steaming is an issue, but with side effects. And finally, there are the new technology providers, the countries providing new technology that always like to introduce in any regulation aspects of new technology in order to sell their products. And all this make the agreement difficult. So before I close this first part, I'd like to say that EEI refers to the ship performance in calm sea condition, but is that enough? Considering also that we have slow steaming, that means ships operate at lower speeds and maybe deviated engines, the question is what is happening if the ship is sailing in heavy seas. And this is currently discussed at IMO. If we say adverse sea conditions, is a question if these are extreme conditions or abnormal conditions. It is a strong dispute there. I will come to this briefly after this first part. Also a last example here that I have from a recent conference in Japan by Dr. Otsubo from Japan. It shows that even having essentially the same ship is here some PCC carrier, the same ship, practically the same technical specifications, but the different shipbuilders, shipyard A, B, C, D, You can see here that the speed reduction for various wave heights of C and before scale 6 is different, what means that ships may have the similar cargo performance, but the performance of the ship in the sea is quite different. In this way also the actual consumption of fuel in the sea. In this way I come to the second part, this introduction to Project Shopera. This project responds to the concerns that current regulations are not properly done and we need to address it by scientific methods and state-of-the-art software tools. In that way, we propose to the European Commission Project Shopera, Energy Efficient Safe Ship Operation. It is a 3-year project. You can see the website with additional information about this project. So this project is a quite large one. As you can see, we have also good funding from the European Commission, 21 partners from 13 European countries, and with representatives from the whole spectrum of the industry, shipyards, research institutes, universities, and also design companies. I have the pleasure to coordinate this project. This is also some map of the partners around all Europe, and you see that in order to do this kind of projects you need international collaboration. And I have to say, coming also from National Technical University of Athens, that without these projects the dying of our higher education would be much quicker, but still will exist, I would say. Now, what are the objectives of this project? Is at first to develop criteria and corresponding environmental conditions for the maneuverability of the ships in adverse sea conditions. That indirectly brings in the EEI, but the EEI is not just about powering, you need to assess also the maneuverability of the ship in adverse sea conditions. That means we need to develop also hydrodynamic tools and software tools for assessing ships' maneuverability in adverse sea conditions, perform a series of seakeeping maneuvering model tests and validate the numerical tools, then develop methods that are simplified that we can introduce into the regulation so that everybody can use, integrate the software tools into integrated design software platforms and develop optimal ships, investigate the impact of new guidelines that we have in mind for IMO before submitting the results to IMO that is planned for October coming year.
Professor, 3 more minutes.
How much?
3 to 5.
5, okay. So here's a diagram that shows actually in terms of the risk of ships operating in adverse sea conditions, where the problems are. We have very high rates of accidents in adverse sea conditions for ro-ro ferries, that is the peak, but the impact is not that significant. Contacts mainly to the piers on the other side we may have very significant losses of bulk carriers, but with very low probability of occurrence. Here is a slide showing the experimental studies that we have in mind and the validation. I will not go without showing some small video. It is from Norway, from Marintech, showing a quite large ship model, maybe 6-7 meters long, inside waves and measuring the forces that later will simulate also by numerical tools. And of course we develop also numerical methods, simple methods but also very advanced methods like these ones by so you can see what you can measure, you can also simulate numerically and validate your software tools and see whether it is sufficient or not. Today's state-of-the-art allows you to do this kind of simulations. As I said, eventually we will integrate the software tools into some software platform that we have developed much earlier for other applications at our laboratory. This will allow some multi-objective optimization of ships considering this adversity of the sea conditions, and then so that we are able to conclude. This is a list of the application cases that we have in mind for our project, the type of ships that will be treated. These are exactly the ship types also foreseen in the regulations. And finally, concluding, if we have to reduce the engine power, then we need to be sure that the ship can operate safely and have a balance between protection of the environment and the safety of the ships. In order to explain you this, I developed these sketches that are very simple to understand. If you go to the upper left, the upper line is the maximum powering allowed according to the EEI regulation. So your ship is not allowed to go into the red region. Powering should be below the above line. The below line is the minimum powering that is also set up by guidelines to ensure that the ship is safely operated. That means the designer can operate within the green region. Now, if the lines are wrongly set by the regulation, you come to the situation like left low, everything is red, there is no solution to this problem. And for many ship types, we have the situation like on the right. That means for some ranges, we have some solutions, but for some other sizes of ships, we don't have any solution. That means the problem is over-constrained. The problem is imposed, and for this reason, we do this kind of research. By that, I close. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Υπάρχουν ερωτήσεις?
Professor, recently we see some propositions for using wind power, solar power to assist propulsion of ships. What's your opinion on this?
Well, there are many ways to reduce, say, fuel consumption, but you need to see the impact also on the design and how much it brings. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. So I think you need to evaluate for the specific ship whether this brings something. I am not that optimistic as some people say. If you try now to improve, say, the efficiency of a bulk carrier by this kind of means, then I don't think it brings much. For some ship types, maybe having also some solar and wind, maybe it can help, but this is not the solution to the problem. The solution is that you optimize the ship properly, you can do a lot of things, still in the aerodynamics of the ship, before you go to some other measures that where the efficiency is not that high as maybe it is believed. That is my opinion. Please.
Υπάρχει κάποια ερώτηση?
Hello, Professor. Just a question relating to the high sea states. You mentioned that lowering the speed of the vessel could improve efficiency. Are you looking into any other means of efficiency savings, such as the control of the propeller and varying speeds of that?
Yeah. Okay, actually in the project we look at very low speeds because in the guidelines of IMO at the moment, we need to ensure that ships operating by 4 knots, about 4 to 5 knots, they are still steerable, they are maneuverable in adverse sea conditions, and the 4 or 5 knots are set because if you have some growing storm in some region, the ship has time to leave and go outside some restricted area where it may ground or go to the open sea. So one major thing here that the project brings in is that you have a difference between the open sea situation and the restricted water situation. In the open sea, actually the ship is not going to easily to capsize. This is because already all ships have to fulfill the intact stability criteria. The intact stability criteria are very severe, and you don't get simply a ship capsizing even in very heavy seas. Unless something happens, the structure of the ship fails, and it's something different. Huh? But in terms of stability and behavior of the ship, this is not a problem. The problem is what happens in restricted areas. That means you have maybe near ports or in shallow waters, you have the ship trapped in some very severe seas, and the ship cannot escape and make ground. In that situation, you need to ensure that you have enough power and enough steering, maneuverability to escape. And the situation in that heavy sea will be not to check the ship sailing with 10, 15 knots, because it will not sail with that speed. The question is whether by some low speed it can escape, has enough power and maneuverability to escape. That is the thinking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Okay. Thank you.